Today's episode is brought to you by LNS Travel. Do you like to travel? Then stop getting played like everybody else. Retail travel has been working you for years, charging full price while laughing behind the curtain. But the wholesale travel service at LNS Travel flips the whole script. You get unlimited trips, 5-star hotels at 2-star prices, over 1 million weekly stays for pennies on the dollar. This isn't a discount. This is the cheat code the big sites hope you never find. Turn your life into a highlight reel of ridiculous experiences without breaking the bank. Travel smarter, travel more. Text "Show Me" and your name to 844-524-5425. Once again, text "Show Me" and your name to 844-524-5425.
Kick bush like Lupe, leg kicked out like the mama, that's how I shoot fades. Laced up in a box, now we looking like shoestrings. Fofo on my hip, say that he acting odd though. Sawed off under the seat, call it El Chapo. Hoes all over the place, looking like potholes. He dies, then he dies, now I'm sounding like Drago. Always let them bury themselves, that's how you sense fakes. I always aim straight for the head, that's how you kill snakes. Blood all over the place, told you we didn't play. Arms stretched down on the floor, just like Jesus laid. Grain, villains.
All right, here we are, another episode of the Inner Heel Turn podcast. We have part 4 of the unraveling of Antonio Brown. If you're just joining us for part 4, I do advise go back and listen to part 1, 2, and 3 so that you can get a good vibe of where we're going and what we're trying to do with this story. But before you go do all that, like the show, share the show, subscribe to the show, rate the show if you can, review the show if you can. However you are listening, whatever platform it is on, I do appreciate it very, very much. So here we go. We're in May of 2024, and Antonio Brown files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The filing lists liabilities in excess of $3 million and assets below $50,000. So let me give you the context. As of his final NFL season in 2021, Brown's career NFL salary alone exceeded $80 million. Some estimates of his total career earnings, including endorsements, signing bonuses, and various business ventures, they push well past $100 million. So he has earned more money than the vast majority of human beings who have ever lived on this earth. And now, by his own legal filing, he has less than $50,000 in assets. Where did it go? That's what I would like to know. But I don't have perfect visibility into Brown's finances because really nobody outside his inner circle does. But we can piece together the broad strokes. Lawsuits, multiple civil judgments against him from various parties, legal fees from years of ongoing litigation, which is extraordinarily expensive, the failure of multiple business ventures that hemorrhaged cash without generating returns, the music, the media company, the arena football team, various other projects, and the lifestyle. Brown was not known for being frugal. Entourages, luxury homes, private travel, the exterior trappings of the kind of life that says, I made it out of Miami, and I need the world to see that I made it out of Miami. And likely, though, this is interference, not confirmed reporting, inconsistent, or absent professional financial management. Multiple sources over the years, though, have suggested Brown operated without a consistent, rigorous financial advisor structure, which for a man earning at the level he earned is catastrophic over time. But the bankruptcy proceedings become their own kind of theater. And that's the part I want to focus on for a moment because it illustrates something important about where Brown is in 2024. At one point during the proceedings, Brown's attorney claims that Brown cannot attend a scheduled hearing because of medical issues. The trustee overseeing the case, the court-appealed official responsible for managing the bankruptcy, presents the court with a counter-argument. The counter-argument takes the form of video evidence. Specifically, Brown appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast the very next day in Austin, Texas, on camera for 98 minutes, looking and appearing in perfectly functional health. Traveling to Austin, appearing publicly, having an extended conversation the day after he supposedly cannot attend a bankruptcy hearing due to medical issues. The trustee uses this to argue that Brown may be misleading the bankruptcy court and seeks to convert the Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which gives Brown some control over his financial reorganization, to a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which would give the trustee much greater control over his assets and creditors. The trustee also identifies discrepancies in Brown's financial reports. His listed monthly income versus his monthly expenses, they don't connect correctly, especially in the document that he provided. Then in June 2025, multiple outlets report the details of Brown's financial state, less than $50,000 in assets. And Brown's response is immediate and astonishing. Within hours, he posts a screenshot on Twitter or X, his social media platform of choice at this point, and the screenshot appears to show a money market account with a balance of $24,001,006.09. His caption, bankrupt over get off my grapefruit emoji. 2 words and an emoji. Well, more than 2 words, but yeah, I can't. I'm sorry. About a claimed $24 million. Now, I generally do not know what to make of that screenshot. I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's current. I don't know whose account it actually is. I don't know if it's a deliberate troll or a genuine revelation or something else entirely. And that's the problem with Antonio Brown in 2025. That's the fundamental problem. The line between deliberate chaos making, the savvy, calculated allegation of a man who understands social media engagement, and genuine crisis, the erratic, reality-detached behavior of a man whose mental state has deteriorated significantly, has been completely erased. You cannot tell anymore. And maybe that's the point. Or maybe that's the symptom. Or really, maybe it's both simultaneously. What I do know is this. Mike Tyson lost his fortune. Allen Iverson spent through hundreds of millions. These are presidents, and they are usually explained by poor financial management and extravagant spending. The classic athlete loses money story that, while tragic, it has a comprehensible shape to it. Brown's story has a different quality because, unlike Tyson or Iverson, Brown seems to simultaneously have money and not have it. Seem fine and not be fine. Be in control and completely out of control, all at the same time. The $24 million screenshot and the bankruptcy filing exist in the same month. The Joe Rogan appearance and the claimed medical inability to attend court exist on consecutive days. He contains contradictions that don't resolve. This is not a financial management problem. That is a deeper problem, one that money, having it or losing it, cannot address. Now, in May 2025, Antonio Brown posted a screenshot of a private text conversation with Tom Brady on his social media. The content of those messages that were clearly meant to be private, meant for Brown's eyes only, reveal something extraordinary about Tom Brady's investment in Antonio Brown's well-being. In the message, Brady is warm, encouraging, and clearly taking Brown's mental and emotional state seriously in a way that goes well beyond what a quarterback typically does for a teammate. Brady writes, and I want to give you the specifics because they matter. He writes, "Love how you are working. Please don't miss your psychologist appointments. Please don't miss your psychologist appointments." Brady is telling Brown that he has a psychologist, that the appointments matter, that showing up for these appointments is an important is as important as showing up for practice. And then Brady lays out a framework. And I find this remarkable coming from a quarterback because the level of emotional intelligence and self-awareness is not what you typically see from an NFL player, let alone one is as famously controlled and private as Tom Brady. He writes, physical. You have mastered it, and it is easy for you to work hard. Mental. You are very smart and you know the game. Emotional. We all need to work on this. We are emotional beings. You need to work equally as hard here. Equally as hard. Brady is telling Brown the thing you have always done brilliantly, the physical preparation, the obsessive work. There we go, first time today that we can't talk. You need to apply that same obsessive work to your emotional life. The emotional work is as important as the cryotherapy, as important as the ballet, as important as the film study. You need to put the same effort into understanding and managing your emotional responses as you put into running routes until your feet bleed. That is not a throwaway message. That is a man who cares deeply, who is paying close attention, who has tried to reach through to Brown in the language Brown understands best, the language of effort and preparation and mastery. Brown posts this screenshot with the caption, "Please don't miss psychologist appointments, WTF." He seems offended, seems defensive, is weaponizing Brady's private care and concern as a performance. Look at this. Look at what Brady said to me, as if Brady was criticizing him rather than trying to help him. Brown seems unable in this moment to receive genuine care without converting it into something else, without turning it into a public grievance or a talking point. That defensive mechanism, the one that converts care into attack, that reframes support as condensation, it's heartbreaking to watch. Because somewhere behind it is a man who is not okay with being seen as someone who needs help. A man from Miami, a man raised in the fast life, a man for whom needing help, showing vulnerability, admitting that there's something going on inside that you cannot manage on your own, that feels like the most dangerous thing you can do. And then 2 days later, something that I consider one of the most significant admissions of Antonio Brown's public life, he tweets, "Yes, I'm seeing my psychologist, Lisa Levine, more Lexapro." More Lexapro. Now, Lexapro is a prescription antidepressant in the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor class. It's used primarily to treat major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. It is one of the most commonly prescribed mental health medications in the U.S. It is not something that you take recreationally. It is not something a doctor prescribes without a clinical indication. Antonio Brown is taking Lexapro, and he is, for the first time in his public life, acknowledging this. Remember, in 2022, in that CBS Morning interview, he said, "I never had a mental health diagnosis. I never had an issue or problem. I don't take pills. I just got a high IQ." That was 2022. By 2025, he is publicly confirming he has a psychologist and he is taking Lexapro. That is a significant shift, even if the context is defensive. Even if he is posting it in the middle of a Twitter war with Brady's text messages, the shift is real. The admission is real. He has moved. Somewhere in that 3-year span from "I don't take pills, I just have a high IQ," to acknowledging medication and professional psychological support. That journey, ugly and public and messy as it has been, is a real journey. A human being making incremental movements toward confronting something inside themselves that they have been running for decades. I'm not going to stand here and say, "That's great, Antonio Brown is healed, everything is fine now." we both know that's not where the story is in June of 2026. But I am going to say that Lexapro acknowledgement mattered. That mention of his psychologist mattered, because the first step in any genuine healing process is acknowledging that healing is needed. And however clumsy, however defensively, however buried in a Twitter fight it was, Brown was acknowledging it. He has a doctor, he has medication, he has a psychologist whose name he knows. Those are real things. Those are more real things than he had in 2019 or 2020 or 2022. And then, 9 days later, give or take, May 16th, 2025 arrives. So, Miami, May 16th, 2025. It is past midnight, somewhere around 1:30 in the morning. We are in the Little Haiti neighborhood. There is a celebrity boxing event happening, the kind of event that has become a staple of Miami nightlife in recent years. Is organized by social media influencers and internet personalities for an audience of other social media influencers and internet personalities, and the sort of nightlife crowd that gravitates towards spectacle. This particular event is hosted by Aiden Ross, a streaming personality with an enormous online following. The card features the Island Boys and various other internet fighters. It is not a professional boxing event in the traditional sense. It is entertainment, spectacle, the kind of thing that sits in the overlap between sports, entertainment, and internet culture. Antonio Brown, 36 years old, is there. He is wearing green clothing and an army helmet. I want you to hold on to that image for a moment. Antonio Brown, at 1:30 in the morning, at a celebrity boxing event in Miami, wearing green clothing and an army helmet. Not a football helmet, an army helmet. In Miami at 1:30 a.m. This is where we are. In the parking lot outside the venue, Brown encounters a man named... I've gotten this guy's name written down, and I have no clue how to go with it. I don't. So, just know that Antonio encounters a man, but it's not a random encounter, because Brown and this guy apparently have a history that goes back to at least 2022. The exact nature of their prior relationship is contested, but there's clearly bad blood. Something before this night is unresolved between them. So an argument breaks out, and then a fist fight. Brown throws a punch at the man's face. According to witness accounts and the subsequent arrest warrant, 2 other individuals who are with Brown join in the attack, and the 3 of them are going at the man together until he manages to break free. A security guard named Eric Bowers intervenes, and then cell phone footage, widely shared on social media within hours of the incident, shows Antonio Brown holding a firearm, not just holding it, running, sprinting down a sidewalk, gun in hand, in the direction that the man has fled in. The man is running, he is trying to get away, and Brown, according to the footage and witness accounts, raises the gun and fires 2 shots. 1 bullet grazes the man's neck. 1 bullet grazes his neck. The man runs, he keeps running, he survives. He goes to the hospital the following morning for treatment of the neck wound and a broken finger. He will later tell police, "I ran for my life after he punched me and others jumped in. Then I heard shots and felt something hit my neck." Police arrive at the scene. They find 2 shell casings. They briefly detain Brown. They find no gun on him. The security guard Bauer has apparently retrieved it, or Brown has disposed of it. Brown is released at the scene. The next day, May 17th, 2025, Brown is on social media. He says he was the victim. He says he was jumped by multiple individuals who tried to steal my jewelry and caused physical harm to me. He says it was self-defense. He says he was defending himself from an ambush. He frames himself as the person under attack, not the person who ended up with a gun in his hand chasing a retreating man down a sidewalk at 1:30 in the morning. June 11th, 2025. Miami-Dade police issue an arrest warrant. The charge, second-degree attempted murder with a firearm. Second-degree attempted murder. In Florida, that is a first-degree felony punishable by up to 30 years in prison. But Brown is not in Miami. Brown has flown to Dubai. A Miami police officer will later tell a judge about this. He says he was posting videos riding a bike, kind of laughing at the city of Miami, saying, hey, I'm in Dubai. Maybe he thought that we couldn't extradite from there. He was riding a bike in Dubai, posting videos, laughing, with an arrest warrant for attempted second-degree murder in Florida. Riding a bike in Dubai, posting videos on social media. Now, I want to step back and ask the questions I've been building toward across all of these stories that we've been telling about Antonio. What is the mental and emotional state of a person who, after being charged with attempted murder, flees to another country and posts bike riding videos? What is the inner experience of that person? Because the options are pretty limited. Either he genuinely believed that Dubai was a safe haven where the American justice system could not reach him, which represents a significant detachment from legal reality, or he was aware of the legal situation but so accustomed to catastrophe, so habituated to crisis, that the response was to perform normalcy rather than address the crisis, because performing normalcy is the only coping mechanism he has. Or, and this is the possibility I find most haunting, he had reached a point where the weight of everything, the accumulating disasters and legal crisis and financial collapse and the shooting and the charge and the years and years and years and years of everything, had pushed him into a kind of disassociated state where the normal human fear response to his serious legal charges was not firing correctly anymore. Any of those options is deeply troubling. All of them point to a man who is not operating with intact judgment. All of them point to a man in a profound. I had to stop the phone call for a second. Make sure we're still recording. All right, we're still recording. But all of them point to a man in a profound crisis that is not being adequately addressed. Brown's attorney, in the days following the warrant, says he didn't flee to Dubai. He has business in Dubai. Business. While wanted for attempted murder in Miami, he has business in Dubai. Okay. All right, let's see if we can get back on track. The phone call coming in threw me off. So, June through October 2025, for nearly 4 months, Antonio Brown lives in the United Arab Emirates. He posts on social media regularly, workout content, his life in Dubai, glimpses of an extravagant life, the architecture, the food, the sun. He seems unbothered. He seems from the outside genuinely happy. He seems free. There's a certain pattern in Antonio Brown's life where he runs away from the consequences of things towards somewhere new, somewhere far, somewhere that feels like a clean slate, and for a brief moment, the destination feels like freedom. Pittsburgh to Oakland felt like freedom. Oakland to New England felt like freedom. New England to free agency felt like freedom. Tampa Bay felt like freedom. And now Dubai. Each time the destination offers a monetary respite the feeling of being somewhere else or starting over, of not being surrounded by the rubble of the last thing. But the thing about running is that you take yourself with you every time. To France, where he got frostbit. To Oakland, where he had a meltdown within weeks. To New England, where he lasted 11 days. And now to Dubai, where the U.S. Marshals were already making calls. October 2nd, 2025, the U.S. Marshals, working in coordination with UAE authorities, arrest Antonio Brown in Dubai. He is transported. He waives extradition, which is legally significant, as fighting extradition from the UAE would have been complex and ultimately futile. And he or his attorneys apparently recognize this. He is moved to the Essex County Jail in Newark, New Jersey. And I want to take a minute with that chapter. Not just the facts of it, but the texture of it, because there is something in it that speaks to one of the core tragedies of Antonio Brown's life. He's always been a man who believed that geography could solve psychology. That is, if he could just get to the right place. Pittsburgh, Oakland, New England, Tampa, Dubai. The thing that was wrong inside would somehow be in a different place too, or would be left behind at the border. He is not alone in this belief. It is one of the most common human delusions, and it is one that most of us have engaged in at one point or another. The idea that a change of location is a change of self, that moving is healing. He went to France and got frostbit. He flew to Dubai, and the U.S. Marshals found him. There is nowhere far enough from yourself. There is no geography that cures what is happening inside Antonio Brown's head and heart. That cure, if it comes, will not come from a new city or a new country. It will come from the hard, uncomfortable, sustained interior work that Brady was trying to tell him about. Work equally as hard here. The work that is harder than any chirotherapy session or ballet class or route running drill, because there is no metric for it, no score, no yards gained or touchdowns scored. Just the slow, painful business of looking at what is actually happening inside you and deciding to change it. He is brought back from Dubai. He is in custody. The story moves to a courtroom in Miami. Miami. November 6, 2025. Antonio Brown is moved from New Jersey to Miami. He appears before Miami-Dade Circuit Judge Mindy S. Glazer. The atmosphere in the courtroom is formal and serious. The judge reads the charge. You were arrested. All right, had to stop. I'm sorry. Another call was coming through. But she said you were arrested pursuant to an arrest warrant charging you with one count of attempted second-degree murder with a firearm. She is clear and direct. This is not a misdemeanor. This is not a probation violation. This is a charge that carries up to 30 years in state prison. Brown posts a $25,000 bond, a relatively modest bond given the severity of the charge, something that Brown's legal team advocated for and the judge granted despite prosecutors arguing he was a flight risk. He has been abroad for months following the warrant. He has social media posts from Dubai. He has demonstrated the ability and the will to leave the country when faced with serious legal consequences. The prosecution makes a valid argument about flight risk. The judge grants bond nonetheless. At 9:30 in the morning, Antonio Brown walks out of the correctional center in West Miami-Dade. His attorney, Mike Earglash. Why do people's names are just... Anyway, He's a prominent Miami criminal defense lawyer, is there to meet him. They embrace. They walk toward the waiting press. Brown does not comment on the charges or in his time in Dubai or anything related to the case. He walks in the direction of reporters, and then he stops at a food truck, and he orders a salad. A salad. After more than 40 days in custody in Dubai and New Jersey, after being moved across the world, after walking out of a county jail in West Miami-Dade with a second-degree attempted murder charge hanging over him, the first thing Antonio Brown does as a free man, however just conditionally free, is to order a salad from a food truck in Miami, his city, his roots. And I want to be really real with y'all about something. That moment is simultaneously absurd, very Miami, strangely human, and deeply telling. Because salad in Miami is the food, it's the city, it's home. And maybe in whatever part of himself was not performing and not posting and not doing super gremlin on the internet, maybe that was a man coming home. A broken, complicated, profoundly troubled man, but a man who came back to his city, who ordered the food he grew up with, who is still under everything the kid from Miami. His attorney says we're extremely grateful that he's out after over 40 days in jail. He's extremely eager to rejoin his family, who he loves dearly. Brown is placed on house arrest with a GPS ankle monitor. He cannot leave the Miami area without court permission. His legal exposure, second-degree attempted murder with a firearm in Florida. His plea, not guilty. His defense strategy, stand your ground. The argument that his lawyer and his team are preparing is that Brown was in immediate danger. The man that he had a history of aggression toward Brown, that the altercation was initiated against Brown, that he fired in self-defense, and specifically that the shots fired were warning shots, intentionally aimed away from the man, not at him. But prosecutors see it differently. Video appears to show the man walking away, retreating when Brown allegedly chased him and fired. If that account is accurate, stand your ground, which requires an immediate threat to the person invoking it, becomes much harder to argue successfully. DNA testing of a holster found at the scene is pending. The case is ongoing. Now, Stephen A. Smith, speaking on the Joe and Jada podcast on November 2025, says what he's been saying since at least 2022, but with more weight now. He says, personally, I think that's what Antonio Brown is going through, referring to CTE. He also says he hasn't been the same since that hit with Vontaze Burfict. Stephen A. is not diagnosing from a medical standpoint, but he is voicing what many people in the NFL community have been thinking for years. Something changed after that hit. Something in the trajectory bent, and it has not bent back. So now we get to May of 2026. What really made me want to start recording and coming up with the episode after we finished our last series. But Antonio Brown is under house arrest in Miami with a GPS ankle monitor on his ankle. He is 37 years old. He is fighting a second-degree attempted murder charge. He is in the middle of bankruptcy proceedings. He has been for the last 4.5 years without professional football in his life, and he is doing TikTok lives at 2 a.m. Some things never change, do they? In January of 2026, Brown receives court permission to travel to Tampa for what his attorneys describe as business, recording studio sessions and business meetings. He makes the trip. He reportedly must remove his ankle monitor for transit and reattach it on return. in accordance with the terms of his house arrest arrangement. Even in the midst of a major criminal case, he is trying to build something. Whether it's real business or another doomed venture in the making, only time will tell. But the legal proceedings continue, and in May 2026, there is a significant development. The man whose name we still cannot pronounce, not that we're not allowed to, I cannot pronounce this. Look up the man that Antonio Brown shot and see the name, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But the alleged victim in the shooting, the man whose neck was grazed by a bullet, he fails to appear for his scheduled deposition. He was supposed to join the proceeding via Zoom at 10 a.m. By 10:10, nothing. The Zoom meeting begins, and the man does not appear. Judge Tinkler Menendez, who is presiding over the stand your ground motion, orders that the man appear in person at the Miami-Dade County Judicial Circuit Court to explain his failure to appear. The man later tells the Daily Mail that he had no idea about the deposition. The man's failure to appear for his own deposition is potentially very significant legally. The victim's availability and willingness to participate in the prosecution is a key element of any attempted murder case. If the man is uncooperative, or if his failure to appear undermines the prosecution's ability to present a cohesive case, then Brown's motion to dismiss under Stand Your Ground may gain traction. His attorneys are watching this closely. This case is not over. It could still go in multiple directions. But while the legal machinery grinds, Brown is on the internet. He is always on the internet. He is on TikTok Live in May 2026 talking about Juju Smith-Schuster's 2018 Team MVP Award. The 2018 Steelers Team MVP Award on TikTok in May 2026 on house arrest, facing attempted murder charges. He is on TikTok Live saying, how you give a guy who fumbled our season the effing MVP. You know why? Because you're jealous of AB. Now, like we said, the Steelers vote Juju the 2018 Team MVP in December 2018. It is now May 2026. Brown has been talking about this for 7 years, 8 months, and counting. 7 years. It is not possible for me to explain from any rational standpoint how a man facing 30 years in prison on attempted murder charges has bandwidth to be furious, genuinely furious about a team MVP vote from 8 seasons ago, unless you understand what that award represented, unless you understand what the whole is, unless you understand that for Antonio Brown, the 2018 Steelers Team MVP was not just an award. It was another verdict from another person, his teammates, his brothers, his football family saying, you're not the most important. Juju is more important. We love Juju more. And for a boy who grew up hearing that message from his father, from his stepfather's house, from a world that was constantly prioritizing other things over him, that verdict is not a thing you ever get over. Not in 8 years, possibly not ever. The same week he's on TikTok about Juju, Brown is also taking a shot at Hines Ward, comparing his Steelers career statistics to Ward's, making the case that he was the greatest Steeler ever at the position. He is challenging anyone who questions his legacy. He is fighting on every front simultaneously. Brady, Juju, Hines Ward, the NFL, the Buccaneers, the world at 2 a.m. on house arrest. But there is one moment from this period that I want to highlight, because amidst all the noise, amidst all the performance and the posturing and the fighting, one moment of what feels like genuine honesty breaks through. Brown did a lie detector segment, the kind of entertainment content that's popular on social media, where someone answers questions in a polygraph, or what's supposed to be a polygraph, indicates truth or falsehood. And one of the questions was, do you regret walking off the field against the New York Jets? Brown initially says no. The lie detector indicates deception. He asked again, or pressed on it more, and he says, yeah, just yeah. Not a speech, not a qualified statement, not, well, if I had been more supported, or if the ankle had been treated properly, or if Arians hadn't said what he said, just yeah. One word, quiet, almost lost in the clip if you're not paying attention. I've listened to that clip many times, and I think that one word, that quiet yeah, that comes out when the performance layer is stripped away, when there's no audience to posture for, when the lie detector is theoretically making it impossible to maintain the facade, I think that yeah is one of the most human, most honest, most heartbreaking things Antonio Brown has ever said publicly. Because inside that yeah is a man who knows that the day at MetLife was not a victory lap, who knows that he lost something, a career, a legacy, a version of himself in that end zone, who knows that whatever was happening in his body and mind in that moment, whatever led to that moment, the outcome was not good. The outcome was the beginning of everything that has come after. Just, yeah. All right, here we are. This is the moment we've been building towards since the Open. This is the place where we try not to actually answer the question, not what did Antonio Brown do. We've covered that. But why? Not to excuse, not to forgive the things that should be forgiven, but to understand. Because I believe deeply that if we cannot understand how a man like Antonio Brown ends up where he has ended up, we will never be able to prevent the next Antonio Brown. And there will be a next one. There are always more of them. They're just not famous yet. So we're going to walk through this in layers. 6 distinct layers that I believe together explain what happened to Antonio Brown. Not any one of them alone, all of them together, compounding on each other, amplifying each other's effects over decades, until the person who results from all that compounding is the person we see today. Layer 1 is the early childhood trauma in the ACE framework. We talked about it, episode 1, I believe, but I want to expand it here because I think the full psychological weight of it needs to be felt. Adverse childhood experiences, ACE, is a framework developed from a landmark study conducted in the 1990s by Kaiser. I can't see. Here's some more stuff. I can't pronounce that. I don't know what that name's supposed to be, but Kaiser and the Centers for Disease Control, involving over 17,000 patients. The study found that the more adverse childhood experiences a person had, the greater their risk of adult health problems, both physically and mentally. The ACE they identified included physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, domestic violence, substance abuse in the household, mental illness in the household, having an incarcerated family member, parental separation or divorce, and emotional or physical neglect. Now run that list against Antonio Brown's childhood. Absent father, that's parental separation, poverty and housing instability, the couch surfing, the financial stress, a difficult stepfather relationship that drove him from home, elements of emotional instability in the household, witnessing regular gun violence and drug violence in the community, ongoing community trauma, being on his own at 16, effectively unsupervised and without stable shelter, neglect by circumstance, if not by intention. Brown scores high on that checklist. And the research is about as high as ACE scores predict. Greater rates of anxiety and depression, greater risk of substance use disorders, greater risk of relationship instability, greater risk of legal trouble, shorter life expectancy, and significantly greater challenges in emotional regulation and impulse control. These are not just statistical associations. They are neurological realities. The developing brain exposed to chronic stress and trauma in childhood literally structures itself differently. It prioritizes survival over reflection. It develops a hair-trigger threat response. It builds the architecture of someone who will spend their adult life fighting. And here's the thing I want to be clear about. This is not destiny. People with high ACE scores can and do lead healthy, productive, fulfilling lives. But they typically require intervention, real sustained, competent intervention to rewire those early patterns. Without it, the patterns persist and often amplify over time. Antonio Brown did not receive that intervention in any sustained or effective form. He received a 13-week court-mandated anger management program in 2020. He received access to therapists he couldn't connect with because they were from the palace. That is not the intervention his situation requires. Now we get to layer 2, the validation addiction and the absent father. We're going to go a little deeper on this one than we did in the early episode, because I think this is the single most explanatory thread in the entire story. Not more important than the others. All 6 layers matter, but the one that makes the most specific predictions about the specific shape of Brown's behavior. Brown's father, Eddie Touchdown Brown, was not just absent. He was an absent father who was publicly celebrated, who had a nickname, who was famous for his touchdowns, who won championships, who was loved by crowds, and he chose all of that over his son. He chose the Arena Football League over being Antonio Brown's father. And then, and this is the part that I think does the most damage, Antonio became a football player, a wide receiver. He became his father. He replicated his father's identity so completely that the only place he could find his father was in the mirror when he was wearing a uniform. The psychological literature on children who have internalized parental rejection as a statement about their own worth is extensive and consistent. Children who experience parental abandonment, especially when that abandonment appears to be a choice, when the parent clearly chose something over them, often form a core belief that they were not worthy enough to be chosen, not smart enough, not lovable enough, not important enough. And the response to that core belief is almost always an overcompensating drive for external validation. You prove to the world, to yourself, to the ghost of your parent that you are enough. You collect evidence of your enoughness, trophies, contracts, Pro Bowl selection, team MVP awards, touchdowns, catches, yards. But here's the terrible mathematics of validation addiction. Each piece of evidence is immediately devalued. The Pro Bowl selection is not enough. You need another one next year. The team MVP award is not enough. You need it every year. The contract is not enough. You need to be told again that you are worth it. The validation never accumulates. It never builds into a permanent sense of worth. It evaporates almost as soon as it arrives, because it cannot address the original wound. It cannot go back in time and make Eddie Brown stay. Every time Antonio Brown perceived that the validation was being redirected toward Juju, toward the team, toward anyone other than him, the original wound opened again, fresh, bleeding, as immediate and agonizing as it was when he was 16 and his father walked out the door to play football for someone else. Now we get to layer 3, the football machine and what it does to bodies. Now let's be specific about the physics here. Antonio Brown started playing organized tackle football around the age of 10 or 11. Let's call it 11. He played through his high school. He played 3 seasons at Central Michigan. He played 12 seasons in the NFL. That's approximately 22 years of organized tackle football. 22 years of the human brain being subjected to regular impact. Some large, most small. Every game, every practice, every punt return, every route run across the middle of a linebacker's impact zone. The brain does not have a reset button. Each impact, even the small ones, the ones that don't register as a concussion, the ones that nobody notices, adds to the total. The protein in your brain that causes CTE accumulates. It spreads. It does its damage slowly over years in ways that are not visible from the outside. They're not visible on an MRI. They cannot currently be detected in a living patient. The only way to confirm CTE is to examine the brain after death, which is what researchers do when families donate their loved ones' brains to science. And what they are finding in former NFL players who donate is alarming. Studies have found CTE is in the vast majority of former NFL players' brains examined, not a small majority, not a slim majority, a vast, overwhelming majority. The symptoms of CTE, as I mentioned earlier in episode, I think it was 2, that impulse control problems, paranoia, aggression, depression, mania, difficulty maintaining relationships, escalating erratic behavior, explosive anger. These symptoms typically emerge in a person's mid to late 30s. Brown was born in 1988. He played his last NFL game in 2022 at 33. He is 37 as of June 2026. He is exactly in the window where CTE symptoms, if present, would be at their most active and escalating. Now, I'm not diagnosing Antonio Brown with CTE. I can't do that. No one can while he's alive. But I'm asking you to consider the statistical probability. I'm asking you to look at his behavior trajectory, the escalating confrontations, the deteriorating impulse control, the increasing paranoia, the inability to maintain any stable professional or personal relationship, and ask yourself, is this just a bad attitude? Or is this a brain that has been damaged by 22 years of repeated trauma, now manifesting those symptoms in a person whose mid-30s are bringing them to full flower? And I'll add this. The Burfict hit in 2016, that hit was just not another NFL contact. That was a direct, high-velocity, helmet-to-helmet impact to the head of a man who had already absorbed years of trauma. The brain is not static between hits. It is in a constant state of recovery or non-recovery. A hit like that, sudden, massive, traumatic, could accelerate whatever processes were already underway. Stephen A. Smith says Brown hasn't been the same since. I believe him. I think the evidence supports him. Now we get to layer 4, the system that enabled the damage. The NFL knew about CTE long before it acknowledged it publicly. This is documented. There was a research suppression effort, a concentrated effort by the NFL to downplay, delay, and distort the science of traumatic brain injury in football players. The league's own concussion committee published research that was later shown to have serious flaws in it. Researchers who try to publish findings linking football to CTE face professional resistance. The league lobbied against research. It created a culture top down, from the commissioner to the team owners to the coaches to the trainers, in which concussions were treated as inconveniences, in which playing through head injuries were celebrated, in which the long-term neurological health of players was subordinate to the business of putting bodies on the field on Sunday. Antonio Brown was raised in that culture. He was taught from the moment he put on pads in Miami through high school, through Central Michigan, through 12 years in the NFL, that absorbing contact is what tough players do, that showing your pain is weakness, that the team comes first, the player comes first, the performance comes first. And when Vontaze hit him in 2016, the world moved on quickly because Pittsburgh won the game and the season was continuing, and Brown was back on the field the next week. Or rather, he wasn't. He had a concussion. But the narrative around it was tragic, but on to the next thing. The NFL did not stop. It never stops. And beyond the neurological piece, every time Antonio Brown exhibited problematic behavior on or around the team, the NFL and its teams made a calculation. They did a math problem, and the math problem was value of the asset minus cost of the behavior equals what we do next. When Brown kicked a punter in the face, the math said keep him. He caught over 1,000 yards last year. When he blew up at a Steelers walkthrough, the math said manage. He's the best receiver in football. When the Raiders gave him $30 million, the math said the on-field production outweighs the demonstrated behavioral concerns. When the Patriots signed him despite the Brittany Taylor lawsuit, the math said 11 days was the result of that calculation going wrong, but they still made the calculation. The system does not care about Antonio Brown, the human being. It cares about Antonio Brown, the commodity. And when the commodity, the 33-year-old ankle-injured receiver who had shown escalating behavioral problems for years, stopped producing, the system dropped him instantly. Bruce Arians said he is no longer a buck, and that was it. No follow-up, no support, no what do we owe the person who gave us everything, who won us a Super Bowl, who is clearly struggling. The arithmetic simply changed, and the answer changed with it. That is how the NFL works. That has always been how the NFL works. And Antonio Brown is not the first player it has used up and discarded, and he will not be the last. He is just the most spectacular, the most public, the most impossible to ignore. Now to layer 5, the fame to void pipeline. Now here's something I want y'all to think about that I don't hear discussed often enough in the context of player retirement and mental health. Think about what it means to be Antonio Brown before the fall. Every Sunday, millions of people are watching you, not just watching. The cameras are on you specifically. The broadcast is calling your name. The announcers are talking about you. Your teammates need you. Your quarterback is looking for you. 50,000 people in the stadium are watching you run a route. And when you catch it, when you make the play, when you dance in the end zone, the roar is for you, specifically for you. It is the loudest, most immediate, most powerful form of approval that exists in modern human experience. 50,000 people making one sound because of something you did. And then it stops. Not gradually, not with the proper transition, stops. On January 2nd, 2022, Antonio Brown is a professional football player with a team and a contract and a role. On January 3rd, he is not. The crowds are not there. The cameras are not on him. The roar is gone. The structure that organized his week, practice Monday, film Tuesday, preparation building through the week, performance on Sunday, it's gone. The identity, I am Antonio Brown, number 81, the best receiver in football, that identity no longer has a football field to exist on. What takes its place? For Brown, the answer has been social media. And this is where the fame to void pipeline gets genuinely dark, because social media is a validation machine. But it is a validation machine that is specifically calibrated to reward extreme behavior. On social media, a thoughtful, measured, graceful post gets a fraction of the engagement of a rant. An apology gets less attention than an accusation. A post saying, I'm doing well, gets nothing compared to a post that calls someone out by name. The algorithm has an opinion, and the algorithm's opinion is chaos is content. Drama is traffic. Breakdown is engagement. So the man who spent his entire life chasing validation has found a machine that would give it to him abundantly, immediately, around the clock. but only when he is at his most extreme. When he is ranting about juju at 2 a.m., the numbers go up. When he is posting his fine documents from the Raiders, the numbers go up. When he removes his jersey on the MetLife sideline, the world watches. When he posts Super Gremlin, the world clicks. The machine has rewarded Antonio Brown for performing his own deterioration, and he has learned, consciously or not, that this is the price of the validation that he cannot stop needing. You perform the chaos, they give you the attention, and attention is close enough to love when you've never been sure what love actually feels like. Now we get to layer 6. The money that couldn't fill the hole. More than $80 million, bankruptcy. What is the distance between those two numbers? What happened in the space between earning more money than most families will ever see in 10 lifetimes and filing for bankruptcy protection? On one level, the practical answers are available. Lawsuits, legal fees, failed businesses, extravagant spending, poor financial management, entourages, luxury travel. These are real things. They account for real dollars, but they don't, on their own, fully explain the scale of the loss. Because even with all those drains on the account, $80 million is a very hard number to spin down to nearly zero unless something deeper is driving the spending. So here's what I believe is driving it. Brown grew up without money in a very specific way. The way where not having money means not having safety, not having stability, not having a home you can count on, not having the confidence that tomorrow will be okay. In his teenage years, he literally did not know where he was going to sleep on certain nights. That kind of poverty does not leave you when the money arrives. It becomes a ghost that sits next to the money. And the way a lot of people respond to that ghost is by spending. Spending is proving to the ghost that you're not that kid anymore. Spending is building a wall between yourself and the couch in Miami, and the clothes you didn't own, and the meals you were uncertain about. Even every luxury purchase is a message to the past. I made it. Look, I made it. Except the ghost doesn't read the message. The ghost doesn't care about the fur coat or the private flight or the luxury home. The ghost is not impressed by wealth because the ghost is not about wealth. The ghost is about fear. And you cannot spend enough money to eliminate fear that is rooted in your earliest experiences of the world. You can only feel it. Process it with professional help and slowly rewire it. Brown never did that work. He spent instead, and the money, which should have been his security, his children's security, his legacy, became another casualty of the wound that his father left when he walked out that door in Miami. 6 layers: childhood trauma, validation addiction from the absent father, neurological damage from 2 decades of repeated football contact, a professional system that enabled and exploded his behavior as long as he was valuable, a social media machine that rewards his deterioration, and poverty-driven spending that no amount of wealth could permanently resolve. All 6 of these things are happening simultaneously to the same person, compounding on each other, amplifying each other, producing together the person we have been watching these past several years. This is not an excuse, but it is an explanation, and I believe explanations are necessary if we are ever going to do better, as a league, as a culture, as the people who consume the sport, and these players' lives as entertainment. I think this has been the longest of these episodes, and I think there's enough content for one more episode, and we're going to do that one very soon. So this has been another episode of the Inner Heel Turn podcast. For any new listeners, I appreciate you. Hopefully you went back and checked out all the other ones before you got to this one and finished it. If not, if you finished this one, go back and listen to those. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate everybody who listens. Give a like, give a share, subscribe, Leave a review, rate it, tell somebody, tell everybody. Till next time.
Yeah, you might hear something, but yeah. Yeah.
The pen that I got is sick, get a prescription. Matter of fact, sick, COVID physician. Feature is dream, sickest rendition. These niggas gone, understood the mission. No perk, but I started itching to get on this beat from Cal, started ripping. These is holy words, hit you with the holy water. Mama virgin, you can ask my holy father. Fuck with dreams of green, nigga, why bother? You can go hard, but we gon' go harder. We savages, going for the slaughter. Somebody stop him, he rapping like a Carter. Going at you devils, I'm rapping like a martyr. Started losing weight, but I only got larger. Got no respect for those trying to barter. Sharks in the water, you fish, give me some tartar. Feed. I fucked up on this one. I fucked up on this one. Yeah, going at you devils, I'm rapping like a martyr. Somebody stop me, I'm rapping like a Carter. We savages going for the slaughter. You can go hard, but we gon' go harder. You can go hard, but we gon' go harder. You can go hard, but we gon' go harder. You can go hard, but we gon' go harder. You can go hard, but we gon' go harder. And I did it, must admit it. Since they taxing, it's no more fitted. Don't play with the kid, get you a fidget. Skyscraper boy, you niggas is just midgets. I'm fucking shining, they hating, it's a sickness. No money, but I still splash like I'm the richest. Bucket hat, red and green, think it's Christmas. Yo, green, I'm the real, think they missed us. I'm on the gold line and it's 4 inches. Super Bowl ring on that Marshawn Lynch shit. Drop a few bars, now I think they get it. Ask Kofi for the beat when he don't send it. Tic-tac and Boo Johnson bored, nigga. I turned on the radio and got bored quicker. This time I really put down the hard liquor. And women that's way older call me mister. Going at you devils, I'm rapping like a martyr. Somebody stop me, I'm rapping like a Carter. We savages going for the slaughter. You can go hard, but we gon' go harder. You can go hard, but we gon' go harder. You can go hard, but we gon' go harder. You can go hard, but we gon' go harder. You can go hard, but we gon' go harder. Click clack, where my click at? Gang gang, no gang bang, where your bitch at? Him claim he insane, where's your scripts at? Maintain my mind frame, hit your bitch ass. King said, gringo breathe, I said kick that. My mind sees all red, I can't fix that. My time's all fucked up, can't flip that. Low key, I don't deceive, that's a bitch act, they spend more. Just to get plays and spins more, I spit more. Hammer hit hard like Milnor, still form. Even Derrick won't hit more. Tighten up by that 2-2, give 6 more. Then 6 more, to the clip soar. Your body drops, your spirit soars. Everybody was screaming, we lift the hammers up, no human being was standing. Even your guardian angel ducked. Make your bones break like Kit Kats that kick back. Push more wigs back than Six Flags and tit stat. I pull up more than gym class, no chit chat. I use my hands for riff raff, your wig's gone. Can't replace that with toothpaste. Fight club, I would kick push like Lupe. Leg kicked out like the mama, that's how I shoot fades. Laced up in a box, now we looking like shoestrings. Fofo on my hip, say that he acting odd though. Sawed off under the seat, call it El Chapo. Hoes all over the place, looking like potholes. He dies, then he dies. Now I'm sounding like Drago. Always let them bury themselves. That's how you sense fakes. I always aim straight for the head. That's how you kill snakes. Blood all over the place. Told you we didn't play. Arms stretched down on the floor, just like Jesus laid. Grain, villains.